Thank you all for coming out this morning for our Good Morning Bluegrass breakfast. We enjoy having you all each year for this event where we focus on education and workforce skill development, and we hear from leaders. Many questions need to come from you that our leaders that will be on our panel can answer for us later, but they'll also be talking about what they're focusing on as well. Before I have our presenting sponsor, which our long-running presenting sponsor, Fifth Third Bank, their president, Mike Ash, come up, I want to acknowledge we have several different groups here in the audience. For those of you elected officials, would you stand, please? I know you're throughout the audience here. Thank you, thank you. School board members, you get to stand back up. School board members, Fayette County Public School board members, please stand. I know you're scattered throughout here. Thank you. And Billy is going to introduce the BIN board today, so I'm not going to touch that one, but anyway, we have some incredible Business and Education Network board members here, and we're going to acknowledge them later into the program. So at this point, I would like to have our long-running presenting sponsor, Fifth Third Bank, come up. Mike Ash, thank you for your leadership and your support, and again, thank you for this breakfast this morning.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Bob, and thank you to you and your staff for putting together what I think will be another great, enjoyable morning of information. I've been looking forward to this topic because I think, like a lot of you, we know that in order to have a successful business, you have to have great employees. And in order to have great employees, you need folks that are well-trained and equipped to handle the demands of what today's workforce requires. And so the cooperation between the educational organizations and the businesses working together is vitally important to make sure that we have these successful folks coming into the workforce. Fifth Third Bank really has been curious about how we could help with that. And so there's two things that we looked at. One, what can we do to help the emerging workforce be better equipped? And then two, what could we do to help those that are in the workforce today that may be facing unemployment, which is something that I'm sure a lot of us know people that have been impacted by that over the last few years. So when it comes to those folks coming into the workforce, what we've done is worked with educational organizations and partners like Fayette County Public Schools to form a couple of programs for financial literacy. We've got a program that works with the elementary school students as well as with the high school students, with the goal being that when they emerge and they get that first job, they're better equipped to make the right financial decisions to be, which we know is all very critical when they're young adults, to get off on the right financial footing. In terms of existing workforce development, we know that people have been impacted by unemployment. And so what Fifth Third did is partnered last year with an organization called Next Job. And Next Job is an organization that we have formed to provide a free resource to our customers. They can go onto our website at 53.com, and they have access to what we call a job seeker's toolkit. And in that toolkit, they get help with resume writing, interview skills, career direction, as well as job placement services. So we're doing what we can to try and have a positive impact on our community. We're excited about what they've been able to produce so far in terms of the results. And we're looking forward to today's conversation because we think that bringing the educational groups together with the businesses creates a real dynamic community. So I'm looking forward to that. Enjoy the breakfast and enjoy the discussion. Bob, back over to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Also, it's a privilege to introduce our mayor, Mayor Jim Gray, who's going to make a few remarks for us here this morning. When he came in this morning, he asked for permission. He says he has a couple major meetings coming on right after this, and he needs to head back. And I said, absolutely. Doing business for us here this morning. So anyway, Mayor, look forward to your remarks. Thank you.
Good morning, Bluegrass. When y'all came up with that name, that was great, wasn't it, Wil James? It's just great. And Bob said, yes, he gave me the permission. I'm really looking at this panel, though. I'm going to miss it. And I'm hoping, yes, there is a videotaping of this, so I'd love to get a copy of it. First off, I was going to say, Wil James, it's always great to see Wil. And when I think of what has occurred out in our neighbor in Georgetown, a lot of people think of Toyota as a Lexington, and I think we all think of Toyota as Lexington, but I met Wil more than 25 years ago. I was on the job site as a project manager for our company's building of the plastic shop on the plant, at the plant. And Wil had just hired on with Toyota, and that's where we met. And fast forward about 23 or 4 years, and we met up again when he came back to Lexington. And I told him then, I said, Wil, I said, our company, I said, Gray Construction, I said, we adopted Toyota's production system, Toyota's problem-solving systems, and we should have paid Toyota for all the lessons that we learned from you. Well, Wil did not miss a beat. He said, Jim, it is not too late. And fortunately, you know, he's translated, Mike Ash, just like we've all learned, he's translated, and Toyota has translated a lot of those lessons into Central Kentucky businesses. And for that, you know, that benefits all of us. And in fact, Billie Peavler, in this role today, you know, after she had her adventure for 25 years at Toyota and took that early retirement, and now she has the opportunity to translate those skills and those lessons for a lot of us. And that's a big deal. Wil, just parenthetically, I want to say thank you, too, for your leadership in so many things here in Lexington. Wil was, for some of you who may not know, Wil chaired the Needs, Use, and Benefit subcommittee of the Rupp Arena Arts and Entertainment Task Force 3 years ago. That was really the group, a small group of 10 citizens that Wil pulled together. And he used the Toyota problem solving. I hope you all will just stay with me for a minute. Forgive me for jabbering on too long. But he used the Toyota problem solving system right there with that group. And the first thing he did, instead of calling a meeting and putting them all around a table, was he brought them to a social gathering where they'd be able to get to know one another. And took them to Keeneland. And then they met after that, and I think you all had a bunch of meetings. But that was the group that actually created what in the engineering and the construction and the architecture trade you'd call the criteria for the project, which identified the needs and the uses and the benefits of an arena and of a convention center, and beyond that, the opportunities for creating an arts and entertainment district around the model of other cities, especially around the model of Columbus, where in the last 12 years, 10,000 jobs, not 1,000, not 2,000, but 10,000 jobs have been created around Ohio State University on 76 acres compared to our 46 in Columbus, yielding, as the mayor of Columbus says, the most significant transformation of that city that they've ever had, and actually restoring the center city of Columbus. Any of y'all have been there, you probably know a little bit of what I'm talking about. So, in a sense, that model is what is working here. And, Wil, I want to thank you. In fact, I want to report to you that thanks to Councilmember Bill Farmer's persuasion yesterday at the House Local Government Committee meeting, House Bill 544, which allows an adjustment in our transient room tax to support this project, passed out of that House committee unanimously and was sent by consent to the House, the consent agenda, which allows for a bill like this to move on without a whole lot of debate. So, Wil, I get to report that to you. So thank you so much. You know, it shows that projects sometimes, and so many of you all know this in this room that are involved in business and professions in every dimension, that transformational and aspirational projects sometimes take time, and they require good planning. A good plan is like a roadmap, and the journey is the safest when the roadmap is the clearest. And so that gives us, in my view at least, a strong conviction about where we're going. Now, on this project particularly, what Billie's going to be saying, and in 2 minutes, less than a minute, I'll try to wrap it up. Today in Lexington, we're employing 150,000 people. That's more than ever. Our unemployment is the lowest in the state at 5.6%. Now, a lot of people say that's great. And I'll have to forgive me. I'm just not into complacency. And Lexington at one time, its lowest unemployment was around 4%. But many of you know friends, perhaps even family, who lost jobs in this recession. People who are looking for better jobs. Businesses who are still having real challenges. I understand that. I went through insolvency in a business, close to bankruptcy. And I know what that's like. I know what that feels like. Jim Clifton, who is the chairman, the CEO today of the Gallup organization, the polling organization, wrote a book last year. David Atkinson, you'd like this one. The title of the book is The Coming Jobs War. And you know, I say that with conviction because I believe that. We are today, we're not competing with Louisville. That's why we're working together with Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher on the BEAM project, the Bluegrass Economic Advancement Movement. 240 years ago, when our city was settled in 1775, and a few years later when Louisville was settled in 1780, and for the next perhaps 100 years, our cities did compete because we were talking about local, regional resources. But today it's a different world. Today it's a global competition. And we have some extraordinary assets right here in Lexington, especially with our educational system, especially with our university, where we're investing almost $3 billion a year. And creating the yield on that investment should be our top strategy as a university city, a unique place in America. There are only a few university cities that are like us with diversified economies. But seizing that moment is what this is all about, and what Billy's going to be talking about today, and what this panel is going to be talking about today. What Clifton says is this in his book: everyone in the world wants a good job. And when I first read that, I was like, you know, a lot of people have a good job. Now, wait a minute, think about it. Even people with a good job, everyone in the world wants a good job. So it's our challenge, almost a predicate and an imperative, that we do all we can to encourage it. And so it's exciting for me, as I've said, and wrapping the corner around to the close of my remarks here, it's exciting for me to be here and present at this moment when someone with the talent that Billie Peavler has, the experience that she has, the heart and the head and the passion that she has for this to help us. And I also want to give a shout out to a few others that are here in the room who are with our government, our social services leadership in Beth Mills, our commissioner. Laura Hatfield is doing a great job with Partners for Youth, and Jody and Glenn and Glenn Brown is our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer. And together, they're working with kids in our community and doing some remarkable work. Okay, y'all, forgive me for jabbering on too long, but I really thank you all for letting me be here. And Bob, where are you? You're going to put that hook on me, I can tell right now. Thank you. Thank you. Sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, Billy, there goes my introduction for you. So, okay, that's good. That's good. No, thank you very much, Mayor. And also you mentioned the partnership that we have. And Kevin Atkins, thank you very much for being with us. If he's not here, they're up in Frankfurt. And if they're not in Frankfurt, they're someplace here in the region, or typically here in Fayette County. We're doing something together, so we appreciate that relationship we have. And now we're going to hear from some very important individuals. In July of 2010, Wil James became the 7th president of Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky. As such, he leads Toyota's largest automotive manufacturing operation in North America. We call it the mothership. While also championing quality initiatives for Toyota's 14 plants across the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. He is the first African-American to serve as president of Toyota's Kentucky plant, which manufactures the Camry, America's best-selling car, and was recently named the new home of the first U.S.-produced Lexus. His career began with Toyota in 1987, supervising a team of about 20 people. It really was fun, though. He has served in multiple leadership roles within Toyota's network of manufacturing operations across the United States, including Long Beach, California, and Princeton, Indiana, which is just outside of Evansville. Wil currently serves as chair-elect of the Board of Directors for the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce and is a board member of the Bluegrass Economic Advancement Movement. You often hear that referred to as BEAM. He was also recently named one of the top 100 most influential blacks in corporate America, and in 2013 received an honorary doctorate from the University of Kentucky in recognition of his life's work and his leadership with Toyota. Wil is a native of Norfolk, Virginia, and a graduate of Old Dominion University. He and his wife, Michaeline, now call Lexington, Kentucky, home. And I'd have to say he's one of the most approachable, down-to-earth CEOs I've ever had the chance to work with in my 26-year career, and we appreciate that. So we look forward to hearing from Wil. Tom Shelton, Kentucky's 2011 Superintendent of the Year, is completing his third year as Superintendent of Fayette County Public Schools after formerly serving as Superintendent of Davis County Public Schools in Owensboro, Kentucky. Tom serves as the chairman of the Kentucky Teachers Retirement Systems Board of Trustees, as a member of the Superintendent's Advisory Council for the Commissioner of Education, and as president of the Council for Better Education. He also serves as a member of the Unbridled Learning Gilding Coalition, which leads the state's work related to new assessment and accountability model and the development and implementation of our new teacher and leader effectiveness system. In addition, he represents Kentucky as a member of the governing board of the American Association of School Administrators and is a member of the Global Education Leadership Program. Locally, he serves on the board of Commerce Lexington, the American Heart Association, and the YMCA of Central Kentucky. And my one little claim of fame is you really get to know somebody when you spend 52 hours in the air. When we went to Singapore, 26 hours each way, you really get to know somebody, especially on the return trip, when you just want to be home. And Billie Peavler, we've heard about her. I don't have to say a whole lot. I thought the mayor did a great job of explaining the role she's got with us, and already she started to evolve our programs immensely. But I keep saying to her, there's no one, I look at her, 24 years and she retired already once. I mean, that just doesn't happen. She has been a tremendous injection of excitement for us, and also she's very capable in the areas of workforce diversity, so we've been very honored to have her. And with that, I'm going to have you come on up and we'll begin our panel. And Billie's going to be our MC.
Mic'd, I'll go ahead and give you a quick introduction. First of all, good morning and thank you for joining us. The recurring theme that you heard this morning is partnerships, and you're going to hear that again as we talk a little later. But first, I want to introduce our current board chair of the Business and Education Network, Danette Wilder. She is originally from Detroit, Michigan, but she resides here in Lexington now. She owns Ceiling Life Technology, a small manufacturing company. She's highly involved with promoting education and workforce development, not only with the Business and Education Network, but she's also very involved with Kentucky FAME, the Kentucky Federation for Advanced Manufacturing Education, as well as other organizations locally. She's also a huge proponent for advancing women and minorities in the areas of manufacturing and engineering. So, Danette, would you please stand? And everyone, this is Danette Wilder. I'd also like the entire BEN board that is here with us today to stand. Additionally, Kevin Adkins is on our board. I know he and the mayor had to leave, so if you all would give them a round of applause and thank them for their support. I think they're ready to mic me now, and I've messed everything up. So if you guys want to go ahead and take the stage, I'll get mic'd and we'll jump right into it. I think we're a little bit behind, and we definitely want to leave some time for questions from you folks. Across America and in Central Kentucky, you hear a lot about workforce development and the shortage of being able to find a skilled workforce. It's challenging in nearly every industry, not just advanced manufacturing, but also engineering, healthcare, IT, software. You know, we have those challenges right here in Lexington and in our region. We have employers that are begging for support from local agencies, state and federal as well, and they're asking educational institutions to develop solutions that instill critical skills in our workforce, such as problem solving, applied technological learning, communication, and other soft skills in our young people, so that the transition from school to work, whether it's from high school or a skilled trades school or a technical school or a four-year university, is less challenging. But education also has its own challenges. Technology is changing so quickly that new career paths are being created daily. Some jobs are going away. So deciding what to teach and finding someone qualified to teach a highly innovative new career path and establishing funding for those resources are challenges that our education system faces every day. Given all of these problems and the complexity of the workforce system as well, and all of the organizations out there that support workforce development, it's very confusing to those of you who are employers as to where to begin, where to start, where to go and get help. And that's what the Business and Education Network is here to do, help you facilitate through that. So I'm going to put my plug in real quick. Give us a call, all right? And we'll definitely help you. Today we have two folks with us who are very dedicated to that word that I said earlier, that partnership. You heard it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a community to build a community. It's not just leveraged on education, nor is it only the responsibility of business. It's the responsibility of everyone in this room to build the economic prosperity that we have here in Central Kentucky and to take it to the next level. So I'm going to jump right in with these guys and ask them a couple of questions, then hopefully Katie won't cut me off too quickly and we'll have some time for questions from the audience. I'm going to start with Wil. TMMK has been in Scott County for over 27 years now, and the current workforce is in the range of about 7,000 people. And as we've already mentioned, you're expanding for the Lexus line. What are some of the struggles that TMMK has had in finding and hiring a skilled workforce that you need to excel in advanced manufacturing and compete globally?
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. And Billie, I want to thank you and Commerce Lexington for pulling this together. This is an excellent program and a perfect opportunity to address the subject that I think has not been discussed enough in the past. To answer your question, let me speak a little broader than just TMMK. Currently, there are over 600,000 unfilled manufacturing jobs in America today. Over 600,000. It's not that people don't want to work in manufacturing, it's that they don't have the skills necessary to be able to meet the needs of the job. For example, only about 5% of the applicants for the skilled positions that we have in Georgetown are qualified. So what that means is we need to align the education system and what the needs of industry are so that it's a fairly seamless transition from education to the workforce. So we're looking for employees that have the basic skills of the math and the sciences, but they also have the capabilities for analytical thinking, working together in team environments, good communication skills, and so on and so on. I think in a nutshell, because of time, I'll leave it at that, and we can talk more if you want more.
Well, my next question was, tell us some of the ways that Toyota has overcome some of these challenges.
Well, one classic example, and we've got the inventor of the program here, Dennis Parker, but one classic example is a few years ago, we recognized that our maintenance employees were some of our older employees. And we thought that, obviously, when they had the opportunity to retire, they'd take advantage of that. So we felt, since we were having such a challenge in getting skilled workers, that we needed to develop some ourselves. So in collaboration with BCTC, we set up the AMT program, the Advanced Manufacturing Technician program, which is basically a 5-semester program, but a collaboration between Toyota and BCTC, which really provides for 3 days of work on the floor, 2 days of classroom training, and after that, we were able to come up with a very valuable and capable skilled worker. For example, as a general rule in America, most of our skilled labor has one discipline. They're electricians, or they're pipe fitters, or they're millwrights, but the advanced manufacturing workers of tomorrow, and today actually, need is to be much broader. It's to be able to cover all of those gamuts. So we really need to maybe change the whole process of what we're looking for in terms of an end product for industry to be much more general, much broader, to be able to meet the needs of tomorrow.
So it sounds like you already have a partnership with BCTC and you're building it at that higher education level. Of course, we know that Toyota also needs engineers, so I know that you're working with the BEAM initiative as well. But it sounds like we need to build that pipeline for the future workforce, and that's where Fayette County Public Schools comes in. So, Tom, you heard Will mention some of the challenges, and I hear these issues from other industries as well. Tell us about Fayette County Public Schools career and technical education programs and what you all are doing to move career and technical education forward in the future.
All right, thank you. And I'd also like to say good morning and thank you to all of our community partners who are here, those who we were able to recognize with the Golden Apples and all the rest of you who are here. We truly see each one of you as partners and we appreciate that. So on behalf of the board, thank you for being here this morning. What I would say is, when we look at career and technical education, most people think of, like when I was in school, the old vocational school model. And Fayette County Public Schools has been visionary in this area for a long time and had programs that we've developed, such as those at East Side and South Side technical schools, and with the recent addition of Locust Trace just a few years ago that, of course, focuses more on ag and equine and vet areas. But we've had very, very strong career tech ed programs, but as Will mentioned, they've not really been exactly career aligned and workforce aligned, and that's what we need to be doing, is making sure that the skills that we're working to develop in our students are those that are needed in the workforce. And so we need to collaborate more and partner more. It's no longer the idea that it's college or career ready, it's college and career ready, because the skill sets that are needed are merging in a lot of ways. What we see is the math and reading skills that are needed in manufacturing and technical jobs are more difficult even than those that are needed for students who go on to four-year degrees and into business and other areas. And so we have to stop thinking of the two separately and think of them together. We have to start looking at education truly as what it is, which is economic development. Our partnership with Commerce Lexington and this whole community has to be based around expanding our programs and showing kids the career opportunities that they have in these fields. So our board is committed to doubling the size of our career tech ed programs. In our recent facilities plan that was approved, we will be doubling those programs, but we want to do that in the right way. And so we're going to be creating a task force that helps us look at what programs should be offered, what are the skills that we need to make sure students have, how do we work more with our post-secondary partners as well at the same time. And so we're going to need everyone to be involved in that. If I can just tell a quick story, my very first year here in 2011, I was having a meeting with a group on a totally different issue, and Jim Host was sitting with me in my office, and we were talking, and he said, Tom, I don't know if you know anything about this BEAM initiative. And I said, no, I really don't know much about it. I'd read a little bit about the Louisville-Lexington partnership in the I-64 corridor. But as we got to talking about it, he said, really, we need to create more interest, for students to get into these technology fields and the engineering fields, what are commonly known as STEM areas, science, technology, engineering, and math. And so he challenged us as a district to say, could you create a school that's a partnership with the University of Kentucky that would work toward developing these skills in our students. And so this current year, we started a brand new school called STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. I had that arts component in there, which is a partnership for dual credit opportunities for students. So with the combination of that program and working with our expansion of our other programs, but mainly through collaboration, we've got to work toward making sure that we show students these opportunities and remove barriers so that students can be successful in these fields.
So what are some of the barriers that the students face and you face as superintendent of the school system in moving that forward?
One of the things that we kind of face is that the students really, we need to start earlier, making sure that they are aware of these opportunities. We as educators are often tried to make sure that we don't, what we've always called track students and guide students, you know, in particular areas, but we need to identify their passions and interests earlier. So I think one of the barriers we have is how do we reach to students earlier to show them what these opportunities might be. And at least in middle school, if not even in elementary school, we need to let them see these jobs and see what is available for them. You know, the majority of the jobs that are there today, and this is no offense to any of my higher ed partners in this room or that would be seeing this, the majority of the jobs don't require a 4-year degree. And we have to recognize that, and we have to make sure that we explain that to the students earlier. So that's one barrier, is getting to the students and letting them see those opportunities, because it needs to be very relevant and engaging for them to see that. The second barrier that we really struggle with is the standpoint that there is such a focus that we have on the college readiness piece, which again I think is merged with career readiness, that it's kind of a paradigm shift for us in education within our own workforce about what it is that we need to do for students to make sure they have these skills that Wil outlined. Sometimes they're called 21st century skills. I kind of laugh at that notion because I don't think creativity and problem solving, critical thinking were created in the 21st century. But those are the skills that we need to make sure that students have. So we have to teach differently with students. You know, we have to give them more time for collaboration, give them more time to communicate so that they can be better prepared for these jobs. But then I have to mention the other big barrier that we have is an entire school system, and that's an equity issue. We have a deep equity issue for our students. We have 51% of our students who live at or near poverty, and that's a huge barrier to education. It's a huge barrier to their success. And so we as a community have got to adopt that problem to see that that will benefit us all if we deal with those equity issues and provide more opportunities and remove barriers that are there for students who don't have those possibilities generally.
Billy, I'd like to add one more item to that. I'm not sure if I'm on or not. I think there's a misconception about manufacturing in America. Excuse me. Years ago, a number of manufacturing plants were dirty and difficult work environments for people, but I would challenge anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to come up to Georgetown and take a look through our plant, and I think you'll find that today's manufacturing environment and facility is quite a bit different than it was in years before. And a lot of times when our folks are going to the area high schools and even middle schools and talking to students about manufacturing, that perception is not so aligned. So if we can, I'm going to ask all of you, members here in the audience, to also give some thought to maybe some of the things that we may be saying or some of the questions we may be asking that could possibly be altered a bit to help kids to get a different perception of what manufacturing is all about. And I would welcome any and all of you and your families or folks that you work with to come on up to the plant and take a look at the manufacturing of today. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
And I can tell you firsthand that it's very different even from 25 years ago. I actually did start on the production line at Toyota, so It's different today than it was then, and it's different manufacturing than it was when my father was in manufacturing as well. So definitely take Will up on that and go take a look at the plant. To close this out with our last question here before we take questions from the audience, in both of your opinions, what does Central Kentucky and Lexington need to do as a whole community to ensure our workforce is exceptional and we're building a pipeline of talent that can compete globally?
Yeah, I think very simply, we need to get manufacturing and the education system sitting down and talking about developing a new curriculum, a new program. We need to get direct alignment to what manufacturing needs through the education system. And, and honestly, I think we need to look at who really is the customer. And there are two customers in this equation. One is manufacturing, but the other one is the student. And if we don't prepare the student with all of the skills that are necessary for them to go out there and compete, globally, today we haven't done them a good service. So that would be my first answer, is to get alignment and really focus on what is it that we're all here for in the first place.
And I would add to that, because I completely agree with Will. I think, we have to have a true work-ready community. We have to have a community that is producing students who have those skills and abilities that will lead them right into good careers here. And so the only way we can do that is through more collaboration, more conversations, more partnerships, and better programs to do that. What you may not know is we've been very blessed here. Bob referred to the trip he and I made to Singapore together. That trip was funded through a group known as the Asia Society, and if you haven't checked into the Asia Society, I would encourage you to do so. We were selected as a city through our school district to be part of the Asia Society's work, and a huge portion of their work is preparing students for the global workplace. And so we are the smallest of the districts that were selected. We're selected along with Denver, Houston, and Seattle. We're the only other 3 cities in the United States that were chosen for this. Toronto from Canada, and 5 cities from Australasia, including Singapore and Hong Kong and Shanghai and Melbourne, Australia, and I'm forgetting one right now. But anyway, the work that we're going to be doing, we're going to have the opportunity to collaborate with these cities to talk about how they are improving their workforce and how are they approaching these objectives that we have here. And so we're going to need people in this community, in this exact group here that's with us today, to partner in those efforts as we move forward, so that we can make sure that the workforce here in Central Kentucky is just as strong or as good as any of those cities anywhere in the world.
Okay. Any closing thoughts before we take questions from the audience?
I'll just make one quick comment. I hope no one misunderstands anything that was said this morning. I think we've been blessed with a brilliant workforce in Georgetown. One of the reasons that Georgetown has been so successful is because of the employees. However, we spent a considerable amount of time helping to get the employees up to a certain level to be able to make certain things happen. And a company like Toyota, we're large enough and we have enough resources to be able to accomplish that. But many, many other companies don't have those resources to do it, so they just have to work through it. So I don't want this to be misconstrued as an issue, an opportunity for stronger workers for Toyota. This is an opportunity for stronger workers across the Commonwealth, because that's what we need.
I think we're ready to take questions from the audience. We will try to stop right at 9:30. I know Tom has another engagement. He's going to have to take off pretty close to that. So Katie's got the microphone. Just raise your hand.
Hey, I just had a quick question. You make this emphasis on, challenging our kids, putting our kids in the right direction, but there's so many options out there right now that the parents don't even know. you have all these different specialty schools in our high schools that I have 4 kids, and I've got one in the IB program, one looking at the STEAM program. You're really not educating the parents. So what is the goal there? If you want to push our kids and kind of get them in that direction, we need to be educated as well.
And I completely agree with you. We need full collaboration of all of our constituencies. The students need to be aware, the families need to be aware, as you're mentioning, as well as our community and even our staff. And so we have a focus in what we call our Vision PLCs, developing communication channels for all those groups, surveying all those groups. That'll be coming out actually later on this spring, where we're going to make sure that people are aware of the opportunities that we have, and also ask them what other opportunities should we be working on and developing. Just as Will said, you know, we've been very successful here as a school district, but times are changing. We have to change. We have to be flexible and adaptive, because the workforce needs and societal needs change. And we can create all the programs in the world, but if people are not aware of them and students don't know the opportunities out there, then it's really, you know, for naught. And so we have to have a strong communication plan around that to make sure that that's known throughout our community, and we will be working on that. We typically have had, you know, 1 or 2 nights a year that we called, you know, the magnet program nights, where parents could come and find out what opportunities, but we've got to make that more prevalent through the use of social media, through the use of our website, and ongoing areas of communication like our Channel 13 and other areas.
I'll add very quickly to that while Katie's bringing, I think we've got a, okay. Fayette County Public Schools has also formed a College Career and Citizenship Task Force, which we will be addressing one of those, what you just spoke about. So I'll talk to you afterwards.
I think you just answered my question. My name's Tamara with ITT Tech. I wanted to find out, I'm not a parent, however, I would like to be involved, so I think you just answered my question.
Great.
Thank you.
I am getting my exercise. I'll be right back.
So this is directed to both Will and Tom. Will you comment on the fact of Toyota being such a large manufacturing and sources maybe sort of veering off to let's go work for Toyota? What are your thoughts, both between Tom and Will, on how all manufacturers can work together and sort of address that issue on how we balance off resources after we get them trained?
Well, let me just say I spoke a little bit about the AMT program. The AMT program was initially developed to support our skill needs at Toyota, but it's now a collaboration of a number of other manufacturers. And we encourage more and more manufacturers to join this collaboration, because we're able to sponsor students in the AMT program, but other manufacturers are able to sponsor workers into the AMT program as well. And you may or may not be aware, but we've been working with state government about a facility in Georgetown to be able to multiply the number of students that would go through such a program. So I would encourage, and certainly we have, I think, about 10 other companies that are involved in the collaboration already, but I would encourage any site that has a need for skilled workers to become a part of that collaboration and look at identifying potential workers or students, that can be sponsored to be into that program as well.
And I would say to that, I think we as educators have to look beyond just our school system, and we have to partner with the entire community, whether it's our parochial and private schools, whether it's other school districts in the other contiguous counties around us, and whether it's with higher ed, with our post-secondary partners. And because again, as I said earlier, I think the skills are merging. The skill sets that are needed are merging, and Students today are going to have to be very flexible because of the changing world. We know we're preparing them for jobs that don't even exist yet. And so as we work toward doing that, it's got to be through a full collaboration with family, community partners, as well as all of our educational partners. At the same time, we're doing that with our business and industry partners. And so when you have that type of environment, I think it creates those opportunities, to share resources, share collaboration, to look to use people's strengths, because that actually helps us all be better as a community.
Thank you. Business needs are changing at an ever-increasing pace, and you just mentioned our changing world. You're having to prepare students for jobs that you don't even know what they are yet. So what kind of techniques and what can the community do to look at those trends and try to spot how we need to educate them for those future jobs?
Well, one of the things that we can do with the community that we're working toward right now that you may not be aware of is Kentucky a couple of years ago had some I think great legislation passed. It's still developing as to how it will be implemented across the state, that created schools of innovation and districts of innovation, which are going to free up and create some flexibility in the rules and guidelines that we have to traditionally follow, because we need to create more opportunities where students see people like, the non-educators in here, although I believe we're all educators, so I hate to use that term. But we need you in our schools. We need our students in your workplaces. It has to be a seamless thing. A teacher, a certified teacher, is always going to be the most important cog in the wheel of student achievement. But for a student to see relevancy and to be fully engaged, we need them to understand how it works in the real world and how it can fit together. And so we need to have more opportunities for those type of collaborations. And in these schools of innovation, the day looks different, the school year looks different. Believe it or not, kids don't have to learn just from 8 to 3, Monday through Friday, 177 days a year. They can actually learn at nights, weekends, in the summers, and other times. And so we've got to create things by taking a look at our structures and systems and changing them to where students have more opportunities and more exposure.
Hi, I'm Mike Stutland. I own Artique. I've been working with the arts in the community for 35 years plus. And from my perspective, the major needs of our community, you've kind of addressed, are for creative, analytic, critical thinking people. To me, the arts are one way to move into that kind of thinking. And what are you doing to try to create programs and work toward these objectives?
First, as I mentioned earlier, with our new STEAM program, we injected the arts right in the middle of the STEM fields because we realize exactly what you're saying, the value of the arts. We're also looking, the board has us looking and reviewing at how we expand our creative and performing arts opportunities. First, so that more students have the exposure and the opportunities. It goes back to that equity issue we talked about earlier. A lot of students don't have those opportunities and they have barriers to that, so we've got to eliminate those, make sure we have the right diversity within our programs. But then we've got to expand those programs as well. One of the things in the arts that we all know is most of the jobs in the arts are in the support areas for the arts. So we've got to infuse the technical components of the arts, where students get opportunities for sound and lighting and staging and, a lot of those other different areas. So we'll be expanding those programs. You can look for that in the very near future. We have a task force that will be studying how we create more arts-infused programs in our schools, and as well as we expand our existing arts programs that we have. Because there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, but you can actually find a lot of real evidence that our students who participate in the arts do have those skill sets that you're mentioning. And so just contrary to what you may have heard, since I have this opportunity with a nice group to say this, with the budget issues that we're dealing with in our district, there never has even been considered any reductions of services in the arts and programs. Our board is committed to the arts, and so I want everyone audience to hear that. So we will continue to be. And so the arts is something that we have to look at, and it's something that's valued deeply within our district.
Let's give our group a round of applause one more time. Also, I saw it here, Chuck March. Chuck is with Link Belt, and oftentimes we acknowledge a lot of folks in our community, and we don't acknowledge groups like our manufacturers, and we have a phenomenal manufacturing company there, but we have many others of you that every day, day in, day out, are creating the jobs. But guess what? Before we get those skilled workers, they've been working with you, the teachers, and the administrators in our education system, so it's got to be a team, a partnership effort. I will never, ever again use the wrong word. It will be Land Cruiser. I've got that down now. How red is my face? Fifth Third, thank you. Thank you to all of our sponsors. And also, Tom is a delight to work with, working with the business person day in, day out on education. He gets it on both sides. And the Asia Society to plug us into it. I'm just saying, get your seatbelts on, because we're getting ready to do some pretty incredible things here. And when I went to this Asia Society, and he mentioned all these different cities, these are the top people in these education systems. And I kept thinking, gosh, we're so tiny. Oh my gosh. And then Tom presented, and we became a giant. And people were blown away what goes on. People kept coming up and asking me about Fayette County Public Schools and the business relationship and all that. And so I was like, wow. And we're on something good, but we got to make it happen. And that is, we got to pull together and once again rev up our engines and figure out how do we create a world-class education system that provides us with the skilled workers, because we get measured on how many people we help you to put into jobs, skilled workers into jobs. That's how we get measured, and that's what it should be. Also, there's an incredible YouTube video to go see. It's one of those did you know, and then there'll be a whole bunch of those did you knows, and it'll say did not exist in 2004. If you have not seen that, it talks about the pace of change going on in the world, and I think it was the University of Kentucky College of Education person who put that together. It's beyond belief. You got to see it. To all of you in this room who came out today, thank you very much. We appreciate everything you do. To our partners, Fayette County Public Schools, Toyota, to our sponsors, we really appreciate all that you do day in, day out. We do not take you for granted. You have created the foundation for which we operate today. We are recognized in all those rankings as one of the top 10 communities in the United States of America. Day in, day out, we're seen differently now. And you know what? It just puts more pressure on us to perform even at a higher level. It's because of you. Thank you for coming out, and again, have a great day and a safe trip back to your office. Good job. They all came off extremely well. Yeah. Look very well.